Hello again, good evening. Time now for Business Live. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. In this edition, shareholders of GCB Bank unanimously reject proposed annual remuneration increment of 62% for Board of Directors. Stakeholders in the poultry sector call on government to establish factories for processing of chicken under the One District, One Factory policy. And the price of crude oil falls by about 5% despite oil-producing nations agreeing to extend production cuts for a further 9 months. All these coming up on the program tonight. Don't go away. We're coming back after this. Thank you very much for staying with us on Business Live. Now to our very first story. Shareholders of GCB Bank have unanimously rejected a proposed annual remuneration increment of 62% for Board of Directors of the bank. The new Board of Directors of the bank chaired proposed a total annual increment of 4.5 million Ghana cedis away from the 2.5 million Ghana cedis currently enjoyed by members. Justifying such an increment, however, Chairman of the board, Jude Kofi Arthur, noted it's been 4 years now since any increment was effected. This was at the bank's 23rd annual general meeting held in Accra. Ebenezer Sabute was there and has filed this report.
Shareholders of GCB Bank shut down the decision by board members to increase their annual salaries from a total of 2.5 million to 4.5 million cedis. The shareholders say that they were not given enough notice and that the company did not have adequate funds for such increments. The AGM was also to ratify the appointment of new directors of the board and also to approve a 62% increase in their remuneration. Chairman of the board of GCB Bank, Jude Kofi Arthur, explains the reason for such a proposal.
There has been no increase in directors' fee since 2013. That is 3 years down the line. And we all know the rates of the cost of doing business over a 3-year period, which represents something like a 15 to 20% increase per annum. So it may not appear as outrageous as it is. Let me also explain to shareholders that this does not mean that the directors go and immediately spend 4 billion. You will notice from the accounts as you go through that even at the 2.5, because of the prudent management of it, the fees sometimes don't even get there on the annual basis. But we must understand something, that the remuneration of directors, rightly so in company law, must be approved by your good selves, the shareholders.
However, the shareholders unanimously disagreed with the proposal.
The goodness or the sweetness of a cake lies in its eating. I am at the age of 80. What is left for me, only God knows. So I have to do something for my children. And then, so I beg you, please, that kind of might be roads. Because in America they say what? Equal rights. We too, our motto is freedom and justice. What do you make it freedom and injustice? Okay, I'm done.
After the long hold-up, shareholders were given the opportunity to vote on the agenda. The proposal was eventually shut down. Some shareholders praised the decision taken to withdraw the proposal and requested the board rethinks the decision.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Jonathan Kwekwe of Mexico. Before I second, I must say today, the people have spoken. The people have spoken. And I thank you for accepting our suggestions. May God bless you, all of you there. And we pray that the Holy Spirit will give you the fortitude, the valor to go and think about our decision, come back with a good decision, so that next year, when we come here, we will increase your remuneration. I do it. Thank you. I second the motion.
In an interview later, Jude Kofi outlined the next step for the bank with regards to the payment of packages for the directors.
That the explanation, if you got the explanation, you know, by law, all matters relating to an AGM, the shareholders should get 21 days notice. Okay, and the bank gave that 21 days notice. The problem that arose is that a lot of them did not get the annual report in 21 days, and the bank was explaining that some of it was sent onto the net, which was available. Of course, you understand the level of technology and even the people understanding having even access to the net. So they had a point that they hadn't received it. That is why the management have also decided that going forward, they will use the branches as part of the distribution points for this. And then we will continue to mail, use the post office, use every available source so that at least we'll get a wider coverage.
Are you still going by this 62% increment?
No, you just saw it declined. So we will have to get back to our shareholders.
Meanwhile, the board approves a dividend payment of 38 pesos per share, representing a total payout of 107 million cedis for shareholders. The bank also recorded a profit before tax of 467 million cedis for 2016, a 29% increase from 2015 profit and profit after tax of 380 million cedis in 2016, a 25% increase from the 2015 figure.
Now, still in the banking industry, the Bank of Ghana and other regulators in the region would have the final say on that investor who can take over Barclays operations in Africa. George Biafra has come through with this report from South Africa.
According to Barclays, the College of Regulators led by the South African Reserve Bank and others like the Bank of Ghana are going to carry out the due diligence on that investor who wants to take over Barclays Africa, the owner of Barclays Bank Ghana. Group Head of Communications at Barclays Africa, Senzingo Zibi, outlines other areas that regulators in these 11 countries the Barclays operates will look at, which includes experience in retail and corporate banking, as well as a well-capitalized financial institution. This is to ensure that the African identity of the bank is protected.
How far you are spread elsewhere and how exposed you are if there was to be a recession in countries. They look at how far you are concentrated into a particular sector, for instance. They would look at what their exposure is elsewhere, so they would...
This assurance, according to analysts, should ensure that whoever takes over Barclays appreciates its culture, and therefore customers of Barclays Bank Ghana should be assured that there wouldn't be any drastic change that would affect them when the sell-down is completed. Barclays UK last year announced the decision to reduce its holding in Africa as part of a new regulatory requirement to a non-controlling stake. It has managed to sell about 12% and is currently waiting for regulatory approval to sell the rest to reduce its interest in Barclays Africa to about 20%.
Let's now shift our attention towards the poultry sector, and stakeholders in the poultry industry have called on government to establish factories for processing of chicken under the One District, One Factory policy. The call comes as industry players continue to advocate the revamp of the sector, which they say is on the verge of collapse. Speaking to Joy Business at the launch of some new chemical products for poultry and piggery production, CEO of Boris B Farms and Veterinary Supply, Boris Bedu, said establishment of processing factories was key to the poultry supply chain.
For some time now, poultry production has not been able to match up supply as a result of several challenges confronting the sector. The deficit is therefore imported to the detriment of the country's economy. Currently, the country's poultry import bill is said to be around 200 million Ghana cedis as efforts are being made to reverse the trend. Some industry players met at the launch of 3 products, Varium, Poultry Guard and New Prime for poultry and pig production. The adoption of a product is expected to improve productivity by 3 to 5% for farmers. In an interview, CEO of Boris B Farms, Boris Bedu, acknowledged processing factories will be needed to improve poultry productivity in the country.
Over 200,000 metric tons of chicken imports are coming, from abroad. And so we are saying that there's a policy that says 40 to 60. That means the local farmers should produce 40%. And those who are importing should bring in 60%. Now, the 40%, if you talk about 200,000 metric tons of importation, that means we're talking about the local people should produce 80,000 metric tons. And 80,000 metric tons is 80 million kilos. Again, the 80 million kilos, we always say that every bird, dressed bird, is a 1.2 kilos. So, in that sense, we're talking about 80 million kilos divided by 1.2 is going to give us around 66 million kilos. And that is, of course, we're going to need about 8 plants, 8 processing plants. That's a 3,000 per hour, capacity plant. And so we need, the government to help us. So we are praying that the one district, one factory has been mentioned by the current government, and also the Ministry of Trade and all that they are doing, to help, the devastating, the deteriorating, industries. Yeah, we believe that something good can come out of it.
On his part, Vice President of the Poultry Farmers Association supported the adoption of better technologies to improve yield.
In as much as we are not satisfied with poultry production and its level in the country, we will continue to look for what can increase our competitiveness. And we will continue to tell our farmers, for anything that can be used in poultry production, in feed, hatchery, veterinary drugs and vaccines, we will have to go for it. So yes, sometimes it's difficult for farmers to switch from one product to the other. If we, yes, identify that this will help the cause, I entreat all farmers to go for that. And reading about these products globally, I think it's one of the kinds that will help the cause of poultry in the country.
The stakeholders were from various regions in the southern part of the country. The launch was under the theme New Dimension in Poultry and Pig Production.
Meanwhile, Vice President of the National Poultry Farmers Association, Napoleon Ajaman Udro, has cautioned poultry stakeholders to come up with alternatives to avoid a shortage of feed in the wake of the armyworm infestation of maize farms across the country. He was speaking at the sidelines of the launch of 3 poultry chemicals in Accra.
Inflation is definitely going to affect poultry production. As the minister mentioned, the target for maize and soybean production in the initiative, Planting for Food and Jobs, is poultry production and pig production. So that if at the end of the day, at this point, we have realized that the production, maize production is being infested with this worm, that gives room for alarms. It gives the cause for alarm. We need to start planning as to what we can do. Of course, once it's infested, productivity will be affected as well. And I am very much hopeful that even if we imported maize to support local production, with the planting for food and the main targets as poultry, and if the result is not going to be there because of this infestation, then stakeholders must come together to see where we can get maize. I'm expecting the yield or the harvest to come into the market sometimes August, September. If by this time we are talking of infestation, then it's likely that productivity will be affected. And that is to say that stakeholders will have to come together to see how we can get enough maize to still enhance the poultry production in the country.
Away from poultry, the price of crude oil on the international market has fallen about 5%, despite oil-producing nations agreeing to extend production cuts for a further 9 months. Now, meeting in Vienna, energy ministers from both OPEC and non-OPEC countries agreed to maintain output caps due to expire next month until March 2018. Economist John Gachi has been analyzing the impact this could have on the Ghanaian economy. He spoke earlier on the market, please.
The government should study the market and see whether this will be a prolonged development. If it's a prolonged development, then I think there's a need to revise the budget as we used to do in 2015 and 2016 when there was significant fall in prices. If that is done, then that can be accommodated somehow. But practically, it is very difficult for the government to do something so significant to arrest the situation. We have set a certain price, and based on that price, we have projected our revenue to support the budget. If the price drops below the projected price for the fiscal year, it means that we are going to get lesser revenue, and it will affect projects and programs that are predicated on proceeds from crude oil. But there is the downstream also, where reduction in crude oil price may influence a downward trend in the prices at the downstream. So if that continues, we may see the cost of producing power and all those things go down slightly, and that will be for the benefit of those who participate in the downstream.
Now, plans are underway to construct what will become the country's biggest shopping mall in the northern regional capital, Tamale. The project, being spearheaded by the Savannah Accelerated Development Authority, SADA, should cost over $100 million. SADA has been seeking support from potential investors, and the feedback has been positive so far. Coordinator of Private Sector and Investment at SADA, Francis Ashonkatai, has been speaking with Joy Business in South Africa on a trade mission organized by the Ghana-South Africa Business Chamber.
Our master planning process is actually 1 year. And already there are people that are keen to take our projects in this master plan before we even bring the process to, a logical conclusion. So for us, I don't think it's been very long overdue. I think that there is investor appetite, and those people that have gone to even build a shopping mall in Kumasi are asking themselves, where next? And we have been telling them the next place you can look at is the SADA zone. In a way, we can even say it's logical, because if you start from the south and you are climbing up, so I think it's logical. There hasn't been that much delay, and I think that if we are able to get some other partners to join in the project, we will realize it much more quicker than would normally be the case.
Okay, so if I understand, based on your plan, you're hoping to see that happen in a year's time?
Less than a year.
And how much will that cost?
Well, that will cost in excess of $100 million. Yes, but I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly, because it depends on specific architectural drawings and designs, and also with construction, there are some incidental costs, but generally it should be within that region.
Okay.
Now, plastic wastes have been nothing but a menace, with substantial volumes finding their way into either landfill sites or storm drains after use. The advent of plastic waste recycling in the country has, however, not only brought some relief to environmentalists and waste managers, but provided jobs for a number of people. In today's special Friday feature, Kukuaban explores a new technology that turns plastic waste into fuel. From the United Nations Children's Fund indicates more than 1 in every 5 children in Ghana is characterized by stunted growth, while 57% of children under 5 years are also said to be anemic. These translate into a loss of close to $2.7 billion to malnutrition annually. To help reverse the trend, the World Food Programme has launched an integrated agricultural program known as Enhanced Nutrition and Value Chain in Ghana, or ENVAC, in partnership with the government of Ghana and with support from Canada. Prince Apia was at the launch at Jachi Pramso in the Ashanti region and has come through with this report.
The ceremony began with exhibition of handiwork by representatives of the various regions.
Stunted growth is often attributed to poverty resulting in malnutrition. The ENVAC project is a 5-year integrated program formulated to tackle nutrition through a market-based approach. It is meant to support government to meet Goal 2 of the Sustainable Development Goals of achieving zero hunger by 2030. Officials say it will ultimately achieve food security, improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. Madeleine Owusu-Mishi is Country Director of World Food Programme for Ghana.
Leveraging the expertise of the private sector to help improve nutrition in Ghana. This program that we are launched today, we are going to form the linkages between the farmers and the beneficiaries and the industrial food processors, specifically the Yedent Agro-Processing Limited and the Premium Foods Limited. The two organizations, a successful program will provide a model that can be replicated by the government of Ghana and other development partners to achieve zero hunger nationwide.
Former Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Professor Ajimambidu Akosa, was at the launch.
As a result of malnutrition, it costs this country 6.4% of our gross domestic product, equivalent to $2.65 billion every year. If we can get rid of malnutrition, that amount of money will come handy to this country. Ghanaian children do not get enough food to eat. And because of that, a lot of our children are short for age, stunting. 4 out of every 10 children is short for age. And all it means is that they do not get enough food to eat.
He says stakes are very high for Ghana in addressing malnutrition, a situation he describes as unacceptable and needs urgent.
It's still live on Business Live. We're taking a short breather here. We'll be coming back after this.
Business Live today.
Welcome back. Time now for the interview of the day.
Interview of the day.
Rationale is that in order to really understand our customers, we need to go beyond the traditional credit scoring for deciding, as being the only criteria for deciding, whether a customer is credible or not. The customer credibility comes from not only his payment history, his income, but also from his network, his social network. And the best way to measure the social network today, because of all the digital capabilities that exist, is to look at your digital footprint and understand how your network is evolving on Facebook, on WhatsApp, on other social media, and how that network can be used to assess your credibility. And that becomes as an additional point that we can evaluate in making a decision whether the customer that we're interacting with has the credibility that we're looking for to extend various financial services.
So if, for instance, George Yafe has connected to Citibank, friends who are MDs, who are financial controllers, who are accountants, and all the rest, it means that I am quite a credible person that you can consider for credit.
It's one data point. It's not the only data point. So it has your network and how your network is interacting. It has the different comments that are coming about you, or the different comment that.
Interview of the day.
And here we wrap up Business Live for today. And of course, for the week, we'll bring you another edition on Monday. My name is Emmanuel Boaji. Have a great weekend.